Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It just goes to show you how special this guy is, and I can't figure out why he doesn't cut through like the Tiger Woods of the world in that kind of dominant fashion in years past.
He stepped up to the tee box on the 14th hole, and he was 60-1 to win that golf tournament. You know, he was trailing by 6 shots, and he comes out on top.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people, the bustler, but everybody else in between. The Friday Night Freak Show has begun. A full court press, 120 minutes. Let's do this thing. We're locked and loaded. We're jam-packed. We've got a ton of guests this evening. We're on the clock, and we've got a ton of drama going on right now as we speak. The UNLV Running Rebels have been knocking on the door for the last 5 minutes. I swear, they've run about 10 plays inside the 10-yard line. They got a first and goal, but then they got a personal foul. They went backwards. Now they're just sort of spinning their wheels. And UNLV looking for a touchdown. They're down 20-16 with 2 minutes left in this football game. And Sluka, the Rebel quarterback, just scrambled from like the 20. This guy's got a lot of grit, man. Like, if you looked at this dude, you wouldn't think he'd be able to run for as many yards as he does. Yet he just took off. He got him to the goal line again. So the drama continues. We're on the UNLV Running Rebels, plus the points. So we got 9 in this game, but we're also on the over, and we'll get to the other one that's a little bit lower scoring than we would like right now. But we're holding out hope right now that UNLV scores a touchdown, and then Kansas kicks a field goal, and we go to overtime somehow. And, you know, we end up at 23-23. We go in overtime at 46. And then there's a distinct possibility. Now, we're hoping. And anytime hope is your strategy, you've got a problem. But we could be looking at a split here. We hit the quarterback prop. But nevertheless, big-time drama right now with 2 minutes left. Fun football game. Not the most, best executed football game by any stretch of the imagination. Both teams have done some strange things in this game, but it's been a fun game. It's great to have these. It's great to have these Friday night college football games, like the bigger time games. So we got a fun game going on, and we've got one play to decide this right now, as it's 4th and goal. There's a timeout. So UNLV has the football. It's all like the 1.5 yard line right now. They're gonna listen. They tried to score like 6-7 plays ago. Like I said, they were on the goal line, and they actually got the first down. They didn't score the touchdown, but it was one of those deals where they got the first down. but their offensive lineman smoked somebody after. They were doing like the push stuff. And they got to just blow the damn whistle because it was going on forever and ever. And the old line started like peeling people off as the pile was moving. And they got a 15-yard penalty. They went backwards. So next thing you know, they're on like the 17-yard line, and it's 1st and goal / whatever. And then the referee screwed the sticks up. It's been a real like debacle, actually, the last couple of minutes of this game. And here we are. It comes down to one play. UNLV don't score. They're not winning the game. They still could cover the spread. If they score, we got a puncher's chance at the over. Speaking of points, though, there's been some points to start the second half in the Little Apple. Kansas State, Arizona and Kansas State. This game was 14-7. First, listen, it was kind of slow out of the gate, but it's picked up right now, 21-7. All right, the Kansas State Wildcats have scored 14 unanswered points, and they now lead this football game 21-7. In-game total is only 50.5 right now. I keep on saying this all the time this weekend where we're coming up short in these college games. The college games have been going under the number, like in the last couple of nights. Like they it looks like they're going to sail over, and then it hits a wall, and then there's a little bit of points, but the total's down to 50.5 right now in this Arizona K-State game. Yet there's a lot of time left. There's 9 minutes left in the third quarter of play. I think it's going to go over the 50.5. So and then like I say, K-State are now up by 14. Arizona can't screw around anymore. They're going to have to hurry up, pass. So I think this game for you in-game players, I think 50.5 is more than a manageable play. We got CFL football getting ready to kick off, and we've been killing the CFL. The only week that we didn't get picks in the CFL, and I regret we didn't because we would have won again, but we didn't. It was chaos in Vegas that weekend. But we've given 3 picks for every game. UNLV, I think they get in. It's tough to tell. The refs haven't called it. I don't know. It looks like one of the refs is saying they're down, but the guy's in the end zone, and it is a touchdown. Man, this game, like I said, they're doing like the brotherly shove on every play now. So, like, he goes into the pile, he gets stuffed, and then everybody just starts pushing, and he got lost in it. But, yeah, he's clearly in the end zone. One of the refs came in. He's like, oh, he's down. I mean, he's down. He's 2 feet in the freaking end zone. So, touchdown. Man, this would be a big-time win for the UNLV Running Rebels. But I'm sure I'm not the only one right now tuning in on SiriusXM, Channel 159, SportsGrid Radio and Television Networks, that has a piece of the over of this football game. So now we pray for overtime somehow. We haven't gotten one of these like, man, we got lucky on the way out type of wins yet. We've got a lot of like, I can't believe that happened losses. Last night, how the hell did that Buffalo Bill Miami Dolphin game hit the wall like it did? The college football game, it was 28-28 in the third quarter, and it ended up 31-28 final score. There's been a lot of bad breaks, and now they're still checking this over and over. There's no way you can prove anything. Like, I don't even know what they're checking. What are you going to prove? That there's a big pile? You're going to say his knee is down? How the hell are you going to tell if this guy's knee is down? But they're really checking this thing over and over and over here. Big time review coming up. I don't really see what they're reviewing. The dude's in the end zone, but it's taken them quite a long time. It was just a big mass of bodies, and you couldn't, like I said, you really couldn't see. Their jerseys as well, right? The jersey, you got black jerseys, you got the black and gray, and the Kansas Jayhawk black jerseys, it's sort of like it's like a mass. Once there's a bunch of them, it's just like this big pile of black jerseys. It's hard to tell anything that's going on under there. The play stands, touchdown UNLV. So UNLV take the lead right now. So an extra point would give them a 3-point lead, which would line up perfectly for us. This kicker, I don't know, like he's hit or miss. So there's no guarantees. Like we saw that last night with Tyler Bass. Good job, Bass. Missing another big kick. There's no guarantees. All right, he makes the extra point. 23-20. We got a puncher's chance. It's all we could ask for. We got a puncher's chance. And the fact that we're getting 9 as well doesn't scare me about overtime as much. So All right, let's get this to 46, get it to overtime, and pray and just hope that we can get this thing to, what is it, 50? It came down to 58, 57, 58. What is it? 57. God, we're close. We're close. It's 57. We're at 43 right now. Get this to overtime at 46, and we really will have a puncher's chance. So CFL football, as I stated, we've been drilling the CFL this year. And we're now 92 and 65. Like, we're really pummeling it. I'd say this is my best CFL year ever. So for those of you, I don't bet the CFL, okay. The sportsbook doesn't care, man, whether you're getting paid, whether it's the Philadelphia Soul, Philadelphia Eagles, Edmonton Eskimos, Elks, or Oilers. Leagues don't matter. Wins do. This is a tricky game tonight. BC are laying 4.5 to the Toronto Argonauts. The game is in BC. It's in Vancouver. Unfortunately, we can't be there because we're here right now. But should be a fun game tonight. Should be some points put up on the board. The BC offense is starting to click. Chad Kelly's been back now for like 4 games. It's time for him to start getting better. I think the total is in play here at 52.5. So we'll play the game to go over the number. We played a BC Lion over teaser as well. So basically BC plus 2.5, over 45.5. And we laid the 4.5 with BC as well. Not really in love with it. It wouldn't shock me if they won by 3 or 4. But ultimately, they probably do win by 6, 7, 8. This is SportsRage.
You say this is a smash, I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? I mean, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. The Friday Night Freak Show continues. This is SportsRage. I am Morency, Sirius XM Channel 159, SportsGrid Radio and Television Network. Check all of our apps. Joining us tonight will be with you for 120 minutes till midnight Eastern. So it's 2nd down and 10 right now. The Kansas Jayhawks are absolutely positively have to score on this drive. They're trailing by 3, so all they really need to do is get into field goal range. But this is college football. Listen, you can't fully trust NFL kickers. So college football is really shaky if you're just sort of, we'll get it, we're just going to kick a field goal. Yeah, fine. You better get it to like the 15 or 20-yard line if you really want to be comfortable about it. So it's 23-20. This is one of the point spreads that I didn't really get why it went up to 9.5, and it closed at 9. UNLV didn't really have any major injuries tonight. And this goes back to last week. And I liked Illinois last week. Kansas are overrated. Like they're okay. They could put points up against bad teams. Daniels, as flashy as he is, he's not like an NFL talent type of quarterback. He's a good college quarterback. He's not having a great game tonight. And one thing about this UNLV Running Rebel team, man, they have a lot of heart. Like this coach Odom, just does a great job. Like they don't have the talent that other teams do yet. Here they are battling with everybody suddenly. So a fun football game, 23-20. We need a field goal. Let's send this game to overtime. Let's bring in Cam Stewart right now. The CFL game just started as well. We've got 3 games going on at once.
Yeah, Gabe, I did a moneyline parlay, BC, Kansas State. The thing that doesn't look good for me, I have the over in the Kansas State game, and I took the Wildcats. Great point by you, and what adjustments they made. Kansas in the first half looked good, and look at UNLV in the second half. They shut these guys totally down. Giving up 20 points at Lawrence? Like you said it, Odom is amazing. This guy is a fantastic coach. And that redheaded quarterback they got there, that guy's a grinder, man. The moves he makes, he's not like he's sneaky fast. And, man, I'll tell you, this team, at the goal line, you saw it when they're pushing them in. I love this team. You're right. Heart is the word, and they work. They outwork you, and they out-toughen you, and they have a better coach than you. I love this UNLV Rebels team.
Well, the game was Leopold's a very great coach with Kansas. But Odom's doing a great job. Their quarterback, Sluka, it was a real – listen, if UNLV – and you have to wonder, too, the Maivia kid who was at UNLV transferred to USC. And I think he thought he was going to, beat Miller Moss out for the job or something. And or maybe he's thinking, even if I don't, I'll be the next one in line here at USC. And, so I get it. Being around Lincoln Riley as a quarterback's not a bad place to be. But at the same point in time, you could be leading this UNLV team right now, putting up big numbers on national television and actually playing. So there are 2 quarterbacks that competed for the job in camp for UNLV. Was this Sluka kid, a transfer from Holy Cross, and Haji Campbell, who Haji Williams, who actually went to Campbell University. So UNLV comes in here, and it's not like they have elite quarterback play, but this Sluka kid, like you said, he's like an old school college quarterback, right? His accuracy is off, but he runs for those first downs, and he's just got a ton of heart. He makes the plays when you sort of need him. And to Sluka's defense, because Andre Ware has basically been ripping him all night about what a bad passer he is. To Sluka's defense, the UNLV wide receivers, the vaunted wide receivers at UNLV, they've dropped a couple of passes. There's been one of them would have been a touchdown, and Sluka put it right on the numbers, and it caught him off guard. Ricky White's a great wide receiver, Cam, on UNLV. He's had a rough night tonight. There's been a couple of drops, misreads. UNLV, could have put a couple of more points up on the board. But I'll tell you what, UNLV's defense is what's really surprising, that UNLV's defense is holding up against these Big 12 teams.
Great call. And you're great. You know what, Morency? I love what you said there about Andre Ware. Sure, buddy, you went to Houston and you were one of the best quarterbacks, but what do you expect from the guy transferring from Holy Cross? And he's done a lot of good things in the game. It's that's not really fair to attack a guy that could have been a second or third string
he's also left a lot of throws, and there's been a lot of ugliness too along the way.
Oh, I understand.
He's a classic college quarterback.
He's not a blue chip prospect.
He takes a horrible sack on one play, and then he'll scramble and get it back. It's bro, you just lost 13 yards. And then the next play, it's all right, he got the yards back. You can tell his teammates him. All right, so Kansas will just, dude, this is hard for them. Like I said, they went for it on 4th down. They got it. But here you've got Kansas in sort of this must, it's not easy for them to move the ball. And now what are the refs talking about here?
I think there's a procedure call on Kansas. It's going to be 4th and 6.
They're going to have to re-go here. They're going to have to redo it. The game's going to be on the line.
Gabe, what you said the other night.
I don't think they'll get the first down. I don't think they'll get the first down.
I don't either. And I'm going to tell you, this UNLV team, if they can pull off this win at Lawrence, go to 3-0, your talk about the Mountain West and the playoff gets real. Like you said, Boise's very good, but look at this UNLV team, man. Wow, I can't believe it. We used to watch these guys when they won like 1-2 games. Like this is nuts. I'm very happy for the program.
Yeah, they keep winning. That game against Boise State next month, coming up in whatever it is, I think it's 3-4 weeks, whatever, be like the biggest game in UNLV history. But their schedule is pretty tough, UNLV, like by standards, by some of these team standards. Look, they went to Houston. Houston are in the Big 12 now. So, like, all these games count. Like, you know what I mean? If you're UNLV, it's feathers in your cap and for your resume. It's like, look, you know, are Houston an elite team? No, but we went in there and we beat them. Kansas, Kansas were predicted to finish fourth in the Big 12 this year. Kansas are actually kind of underachieving a little bit, I think, this year. So as you stated, we got a big fourth down coming up. The game is essentially on the line on this play. I want it to go to overtime because I got UNLV +9 in the over, so I won't get screwed with the 9 in overtime. I just rather let's get this at 46 and hope for the best in overtime. 2 touchdowns. I haven't gotten lucky like that yet this year with a late sort of.
Yeah.
It went to overtime and it went over. It hasn't happened yet for us this year yet.
I like the under in this one, but I got the over in the other game. I'm not sure if it's going to get there right now. It's 21-7 for K-State, and they're nearing the end of the third quarter. Need a lot more points.
Yeah, Arizona. Looks like K-State's about to score again, and Arizona just not getting it done with only 7 points. So here's the big play coming up for the Kansas Jayhawks. Doesn't even get the ball.
Wow! Oh.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play's there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? Man, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The UNLV Running Rebels, no longer a laughing stock. Another big win for them. And they take a step closer to what would have been a comical, laughable statement to make about we're playing for the playoffs. And we think we can go make it to the college football playoffs if you're the UNLV Running Rebels. And here they are. UNLV had a few years, man, where their win total was literally 0.5, 1.5. Would they win a game? And would they win 2 games? Then it was sort of, well, can they win 3 games? And They have had a million different coaches over the years. There's never really, the only one was the legend John Robinson, former Los Angeles Ram coach. For whatever reason, in his elder years, showed mercy on UNLV and took the job. Used to coach USC too. Guy's a legend, and I don't know. They paid him well. He must have liked the golf courses and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He's like, all right, I'll coach the team. They weren't terrible with him. Omar Clayton was the quarterback. Like, he sort of, he did his best. Sam Boyd Stadium is a dump. It's in the middle of nowhere. It was impossible to recruit. The UNLV campus is kind of a, I don't know, I guess kind of a dump. I'll go back to the same word. Like the UNLV campus is not nice.
No.
It should be a lot nicer than it is. And the fact of the matter is, it's in a really bad neighborhood. Like, UNLV students get robbed and harassed, and there's shootings around the campus all the time and stuff. So it's not ideal for them. Like, people wonder, how come UNLV basketball isn't better? It's not as easy to recruit there as people think it is. So, and parents don't want their kids living in Vegas. The team isn't great. There's just a lot of different things about it, a lot of negatives. And mostly it's the facilities, to be honest. But what everything changed was that new Allegiant Stadium, right? They didn't have to. Suddenly, it's like, we play on the Strip. We don't play in the middle of nowhere on a toxic garbage dump land in Henderson. We play on the Strip now. So you got a state-of-the-art stadium. Lorenzo Fertitta and the Fertittas, who founded the UFC, or the second founders of the, you know what I mean, the former owners of the UFC. They're super rich. They own like 20 casinos in Vegas. They're like the biggest sort of donors. So they put in $200 million in a practice facility and gym. And so UNLV have good football facilities now. And they're starting to get some players to go there. And it's pretty crazy, because anyone ever asks you a trivia question, UNLV, and this is pretty stupid that they're the answer to this, but UNLV lost the biggest upset in football history, in college football history, as far as the point spread was concerned, was UNLV, Cam, were favored by like 45.5 against Howard. And it was the opening game of the season. And I never forget, I was at the Superbook. I was at the sports book that day, and Howard were staying there, and all their families were there. And there was a UFC that night, and I was getting all lit up in the afternoon. I was talking to Howard parents, and I was like, you having a good time in Vegas? They're like, we love it. And I remember, I didn't mean to be a jackass. I said, well, enjoy it now, because this game could get ugly tonight. And I'm drinking, you know what I mean? 45 point favorite. No lie. The same guy came up to me at like 1 a.m. in the casino. Yeah. He goes, hey, you said it wouldn't be a great day. It was a great day. They came in, like, into the casino after. I was like, oh, my God. Like, they were marching with the band, like, in the parking lot. Boom, boom, boom. And Cam Newton's little brother was the quarterback. He pulled it off. But that's the biggest. But the thing is, Cam, UNLV should never have been 45-point favorites against anybody. So it's kind of like it's kind of weird that they're the biggest shocking upset ever. But it's true. That's the biggest point spread ever. Like, Michigan losing to App State. Michigan were like 32-point favorites. They weren't 45-point favorites. They were in the 30s. But sort of like Notre Dame and Northern Illinois was. Though,
you're right. I consider App State over Michigan due to the teams that are playing. Like, you're right. UNLV should be
that's
like
a real upset. That was a real upset.
Exactly. 27.5. Like, that is a
UNLV should have been -4. They lost the game outright.
-4. That's right.
They lost the game outright. Like, they lost outright as 45-point favorites. That's how bad they were, everyone. That's my point. Like, that's how bad they were. Like, they were bad. And even now, guys, like last week, they had 25,000 people at their game only, okay? And they were happy. They were like, all right, it's getting bigger. It's growing. Mm-hmm. And they had 7,000 students go to the game, which was like, for Michigan or something, it would be like people would get fired. It'd be like, man, only 7,000 students showed up to the game. Yeah. UNLV was ecstatic. They were like, we never had 7,000 of our students. Like, the sororities, and they all came together, and they partied, and like, they don't usually go to UNLV football games. Point blank.
Will now.
So it's starting to grow. You can jump on that bandwagon now.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play's there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? Man, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Gabriel Morency, Sirius XM Channel 159, SportsGrid Radio and Television Networks. Let's bring in our SEC insider right now, Mr. Brent Beard. College football never sleeps. Brent, it's always a pleasure, my man. Thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us.
Always glad to be with you, Gabe. We're in week 3, which is hard to believe. Only 2 matchups between 2 teams that are ranked, which is unusual this time of year. Missouri and Boston College being one of those. But anyway, it's college football, Gabe, and brother, that's all that matters.
Well, I tell you what, we're 3 weeks into the season, and as soon as the dust settles and we're getting used to the new conferences, the Pac-2/Pac-12 invades the Mountain West, Brent, and now they're putting together a new conference. It really is a fascinating time in college football right now, and it's not over. And, this is just going to be a yearly thing right now. Yet, it's just like musical chairs. At what point do we go too far with teams just leaving conferences every couple of years, suing to get out? It's chaos. Let's just call it out for what it is. It's funny. The athletic directors and the presidents, Brent, complained about NILs and chaos. It's the Wild West. They're the leaders of this. They're like more chaotic than anyone else.
They are. There's no doubt about it. And this is just more, frankly, of the same. Look, I liked the Pac-12 when it was intact. I watched it a lot, especially late night when I get back from covering the game. I thought it was wonderful. Now, what they've got at this point, I believe, is 6 teams. I've got to get a couple of more. Now, I don't think they'll have the appeal the previous conference did, but I am glad they're trying to do something. But see, here's the game, and I'm curious what you think about this too, is we know that there are going to be teams leaving the Atlantic Coast Conference in the ACC. And I know Memphis has been mentioned as a team for to get back into the Pac, or not get back, but to get into the Pac-12. So my question is, if you're a team like that, do you jump at this knowing that you could go right now, or do you wait and what, Gabe, in a year or so, you could probably say, if you're a team like Memphis, you could get in the ACC, from what I understand. So some interesting.
As good as they are in basketball, they'll be attractive, won't they? Gonzaga's another one. Gonzaga's another one. Even though they don't play football, they're so big in basketball. It's worth it to bring them in to your conference. But I would almost let the dust settle. Actually, if I was,
I agree.
If I was in charge, which I'm not, but I would let the dust settle because there's going to be a new sort of power conference that's going to be put together. But speaking of the Pac-12, Brent, I don't think the quality of play was the problem ever. I think it was more of a business situation, right? And they didn't pay enough to the coaches because the revenue wasn't there. But the quality of play was good. You heard what Cam Ward said. Threw some serious shade at Gator Nation when he said, big deal, the Swamp. I played in louder stadiums in the Pac-12 than this. And Brent, Cal goes into Auburn, beats Auburn. Arizona State beats down Mississippi State. A lot of these Pac-12, Utah look great. USC beats LSU. All these Pac-12 teams look great, Brent. And I tell you, a little bit of auspicious start for the SEC, isn't it, in some of these non-conference games?
Well, and let me tell you this too, Gabe. That Cal win over Auburn, that was no fluke, was it? I mean, Cal.
No, it was a convincing win.
It was, Gabe. And you know this, Cal should have won at home last year when they played Auburn. Frankly, Auburn won late in the fourth quarter. So yes, I mean, these teams are doing well. I understand Cam Rising is now out for a while at Utah, which I'm disappointed to hear that. I love Utah and have for quite a while, but back to your point, yes, some of these former Pac-12 teams they've accounted for themselves very well.
Let me ask you something, Brent. In hockey, there's certain teams like the Philadelphia Flyers haven't had a goalie in like 20 years, and they just can't find a goalie. And, we see this team, we see this in baseball. Teams can't find good pitchers or whatnot. What is it about Auburn and quarterbacks right now? Like, why can't they get this right basically since the Cam Newton era, right? I mean, they were extremely spoiled with Cam Newton, but it's just sort of, and I don't like throwing college, athletes under the bus, but they do get paid now, so it softens the blow a little bit. But let's just call it out. Let's just call it out for what it is. The quarterback play of the Auburn Tigers has been subpar for a long time now. For a long time.
And let me give you some numbers on that real quick. With Hugh Freeze, the quarterbacks that he's had, and I know he's only been there a short period of time, but the quarterbacks he's had is Auburn. The touchdown interception ratio is 15-15, and I can tell you that's not good by any stretch of the imagination. Auburn has put, over the last few years, 21 players on NFL rosters. Alabama's got 61. Georgia's next. I believe they're in the 50s. So, to your point, they have just not had the talent, and particularly a quarterback. Now look, you and I talked about this in the offseason. Hugh Freeze had a chance, didn't he, Gabe, to go out and possibly get another quarterback. He said, look, we're fine. We're just going to coach Peyton Thorne up, and we'll be okay. But look,
Brent, if you're not fine at Michigan State, you're not going to be fine at Auburn. Let's just call it out for what it is.
Not. Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. So they're at a point now to where now they'll probably beat New Mexico this weekend, but if Thorne is not able to get anything going, their reality is, Gabe, that they're going to hit a stretch of about 4 SEC games coming up. One of them is Arkansas, that right now, with the Auburn defense playing the way they are too, they could put a number on Auburn. So your point's a good one, that they're pretty much almost at a crisis situation at quarterback.
Man, Arkansas really, the Dennis Green quote, we let them off the hook. They really let Oklahoma State off the hook last week. It would have been a massive win for them. So, Brent, we got about 2 minutes left here in this segment. So what do you make of College Game Day going to South Carolina? I know Paul Feinbaum said it was one of the more baffling College Game Day decisions ever. He thought they should have went to Kentucky. You have Georgia, Kentucky, but I'm thinking, how about some love for the Pacific Northwest? You got the Civil War this weekend. You got the Apple Cup. You're telling me it would have been a fun atmosphere outside of Lumen Field in Seattle? These are big football games. And especially since, with the conference stuff and all this, there's bad blood. There already was bad blood. But what about that, Brett? What do you think about the college game day going to Columbia?
Gabe, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if shocked is the word, but I was confused at that. I was very surprised to see that with the way South Carolina's been playing. Now, look, they had a nice win over Kentucky, and their defense is SEC quality, but that offense on Norris Sellers yet is still struggling and learning the game. So I'm with you, Gabe. Even the game we mentioned a few minutes ago between Boston College and Missouri would have been a more of an attractive game. It would have been two ranked teams. And
Missouri, Missouri are on the upswing right now. Sort of a hot team. Get there when they're hot right now.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm with you. I was very surprised they ended up in Columbia.
We've got the Florida Gators and the Texas A&M Aggies, another sort of hot seat game early in the season here. The seats are getting hot earlier in the year. Now as we're only into week 3. So we'll get Brent's thoughts on some of these big games this weekend. First Coast News, college football analyst out of Jacksonville, Florida, joining us. I am Gabriel Morency, Sirius XM Channel 159 of the SportsGrid Radio and Television Networks. Football is back, baby. Let's roll.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play's there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? Man, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Three, two, one. SportsRage continues. I am Gabriel Morency. Countdown to kickoff is on. A full slate of big-time games on Saturday. It's been a great week of college football already. And, Brent, so we talked about LSU, South Carolina. Quickly on this game, and I want to get to some of the bigger games, but is this Brian Kelly needs to win football games, too, speaking of hot seats. So he can't lose. He can't lose this game. They're like 7-point favorites, Brent. What do you think about the Tigers and the Gamecocks?
I can see them winning this game by double digits, frankly. They've just got a better roster than South Carolina. Now, South Carolina really has stepped up they're really good now defensively. You could see that against Kentucky. That they had double-digit tackles for loss against Kentucky. But I'm with you. I think Garrett Nussmeier is doing well, and I think he's been impressive so far. And it may take him a little bit. Harold Perkins on the LSU defense that I think is improving actually. So look, you never quite know. And I appreciate the passion and the excitement in South Carolina, but frankly, at this point, LSU just is the better team. They did lose Emory at running back for the year, and that's very unfortunate for them. And they've lost several of the guys for the year, which is bad. But at the same time, they've got enough talent there to where they can certainly win this game.
Alabama, a noon Eastern start, 9 o'clock Pacific start time.
Mm-hmm.
Only the second time ever these teams have played before. So, it's one thing I wish I would see more of, Brent, these sort of weird, unorthodox games that you don't ever see.
Sure.
So you got Alabama going into the Midwest, into Madison.
Yeah.
It should be a fun atmosphere. Similar to the Gamecocks and LSU's just say, to me, there's just going to be too much of a speed difference.
Yeah.
I don't think Wisconsin's offense will be able to keep up with Alabama. And seems to me that I think Alabama will be happy they're just not playing South Florida again, Brent. I don't know what's up with that. Like, South Florida get Bama problems. But I could see Bama rolling in this game, Brent. They're 16-point favorites. I think they're going to win convincingly.
I can too. I agree with that. Their offensive line struggled against South Florida, and they were able to get Elijah Pritchett in toward the end of the game. And when he came in, replacing Wilkin Formby, who eventually would be a good offensive lineman, they scored in 3 straight possessions, which was impressive. Bama, to your point, particularly with Ryan Williams, a freshman, they have got, frankly, just a better roster than Wisconsin does. I've heard that Wisconsin offensive line, which is usually their strength, is not as good as it used to be. But Gabe, here's my thing with this. Miami transfer Tyler Van Dyke going against that Alabama defense is pretty salty. I would certainly give the advantage there to Alabama. So yes, it'll be loud and it'll be difficult at first, but I think Bama's roster takes over at some point.
Brent, you mentioned South Carolina's big win against Kentucky last week. Now Kentucky hosts the Georgia Bulldogs, the number 1 team in the country. And despite all of Georgia's success, I think the one good thing that one of the many things that Kirby Smart does a great job of is they stay hungry. They're always thirsty, this team. And they've got a chip on their shoulder, I believe, from being left out of the playoffs last year. Yeah, so there's almost like, it just seems like they're in this like show no mercy mode to me, Brent. And I think this is going to be an example of this. I think Kentucky, they're 24-point favorites, a lot of points.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet on Kentucky with my money. I tell you that. I think Georgia could really light them up, Brent.
Yeah, and look, Brock Vandagriff, who used to be at Georgia, is a Kentucky quarterback. He threw for 30 yards last week, but a lot of that was because of South Carolina's front 7 on defense, which is really, frankly, very good. So, but I'm with you. I think Georgia wins this game pretty easily. Look, I like Mark Stoops, Gabe. I hope they play better. But Georgia's, I think, going to be just like the big threshing machine going across the field in this game. I still think Kentucky ends up going to a bowl game, and they have a decent year. But here's the thing with Georgia. They've got some real competition coming up. They've got Bama coming up at the end of the month. They've got Texas next month, and then they've got Ole Miss. So the good thing for Georgia is, and frankly for all college football fans, Georgia's really going to earn it this year if they're able to win another championship.
That's a great point, because as great as they are, they've had a cupcake schedule over the years. They're actually going to have to prove it, but I think they can, and they kind of showed that against Clemson, because I don't think Clemson are bad, and they made Clemson look like a high school team in the second half. Brent, we've got about 2 minutes once again here. So what a wild start to the season. Notre Dame goes into College Station, wins the football game, and then turns around and loses to Northern Illinois. Now you've got Texas A&M going into Gainesville, going into the swamp, and Billy Napier isn't doing himself any favors by picking fights with fans. Talking about I don't care what somebody in their mom's basement says in Central Florida about our program. Well, you kind of should, and if anything, don't start poking people. You're not winning enough games to be arrogant with the fans. We'll put it that way.
Right.
Another massive game here, Brent, for the Gators. What happens here when A&M need to win too? It is a big game for both teams.
It is.
What happens in this game?
It's a massive game. I still think Florida may be able to pull this out. DJ Lagway, the backup quarterback, came in last week against Sanford, where he played the whole game and really played well. Let me give you a couple of stats here to me that are unbelievable. A&M has lost 10 games on the road in a row. I never would have thought that would be happening with A&M, frankly, to go with that. So I think this game is close. A&M is struggling on their rush defense, and I think Montrell Johnson, the Florida running back, is able to take advantage of it. But again, as you said, and I agree, I can't tell you how massive of a game this is for Billy Napier.
Wow, 10 losses in a row on the road for the Texas A&M Aggies. Can't believe we're out of time already, Brent. Time just goes by too quickly when we have you on. First Coast News college football analyst, second helping podcast on the SEC. He's breaking it down, and you can find him on Twitter, X at Brent Beard. Brent, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks for the time.
Always.
You say this is a smash, I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? I mean, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Thanks to Brent Beard for joining us and breaking down the SEC matchups this week. Always great talking college football with Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter, First Coast News college football analyst on ABC News in Jacksonville, Florida. Big game for the Gators tomorrow against the Texas A&M Aggies. Billy Napier's on the hot seat for real, and true, even if he wins this game, he's probably getting fired. The way things are going for the Gators right now, he really needs to win he needs to start winning football games. He needs to make a bowl game. That was their goal coming into the year. And trust me, the Gator Nation, their goal normally isn't to make it to a bowl, right? Like the bar has been lowered. But the fact that he rips the fans and he gets into it with the media all the time now, the clock is ticking. So big game for them. But Arizona right now, this game I'm disappointed. I thought there'd be more points. I thought, earlier in the week, I thought this would be a tough place for Arizona to go in and play. But at the same point in time, I also bought into their offense that just hit a wall tonight. But for people who are watching this game, this wide receiver on Arizona, McMillan, he had like 304 yards in week one and 4 touchdowns in a game. And you figure, okay, well, whatever. It's college football. Sometimes guys are going to have these big games and these big numbers. But this guy's a freak, man. Like an absolute freak. Like he's unstoppable. Like he's just point blank unstoppable. And his prop tonight was 6.5 receptions and like 98.5 yards, which is 98.5, kind of a lot. For the record, he's got 11 catches for 138. They only have 7 points tonight, too.
That's amazing.
He's been targeted 14 times. He's like 6'5". He's bigger than all the, you just throw it up to him, and he comes down with it, but he's fast. He's strong. It's not just like stat hype. Like, this guy will be the number 1 wide receiver taken in the NFL draft this year. So for you NFL fans and NFL draft junkies, keep your eye on McMillan on Arizona. The thought was Luther Burden III from Missouri would be the top wide receiver. There's still a lot of football left, but man, this kid's a freak. He's from Hawaii, big Hawaiian kid, but man, is he good. So 31-7 in this football game. K-State's about to win. And speaking of good, Avery Johnson, Cam, the quarterback at K-State. Here's another, he's not really a household name. People don't really fully know him. K-State aren't on TV all that much, but this kid's one of the better young quarterbacks in college football right now. And the criticism with him is like a lot of these college players, he's not the greatest passer. Tonight, though, was pretty sharp. 14 to 23, 156 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns. But on top of that, so he went 14 to 23 throwing the ball. He threw for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 17 rushing attempts for 110 yards. So he ran for 110. He threw for 156. Pretty impressive. Like, this kid is a wrecking ball, and he doesn't look like it. He kind of, he looks like he would be like the kid holding the sticks on the sidelines. Like, he doesn't look like a football player, really. But that's what I think surprises people, because he looks kind of like a goofball, and then he gets on the football field and he starts making these plays. But very, very impressive performance tonight. Fafita is a big-time quarterback, and, it's not quarterback versus quarterback, but Avery Johnson just won the football game by 24 points and put up some very big numbers tonight. Big-time performance by Johnson.
I love Johnson, Gabe, but I think my Heisman at 30-1 was a little ambitious because K-State has to basically run the table, but got yours too. Just to make a note, I love your call about McMillan. I think he was a monster in that bowl game against Oklahoma as well. He's had 2 games this year already with double-digit receptions. The guy's amazing. And by the way, Gabe, I just took BC Lions plus 3.5 when you're doing your interview with Brent as a dog. I think they're going to come back and regroup and, get ahead of Toronto. Their defense is keeping them in the game.
A little bit of a slow start for the BC Lions tonight. The in-game total is now 49.5. Toronto lead the game 9-3. Toronto left some points on the field. They might live to regret it, but BC's offense is struggling, and they sort of got on track the last couple of games, and you would figure that everything was okay again, but there's controversy in Vancouver now with this team, and that's what happens when you bring Nate Rourke in. Not everybody was fully on board. Vernon Adams was playing like at an MVP level, and he got hurt, and then they started losing games, and they panicked, so they signed Nate Rourke, but Nate Rourke's not playing that great. He's okay, but he's not playing better than what Vernon Adams was playing before. So even though the Lions were on a hot streak, they basically told Nate Rourke, if you don't play well tonight, we're starting Vernon Adams next game. And I think it's affecting him.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
And 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? Man, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, you know, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You know, you mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. You know, that's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
K-State putting the finishing touches on this football game, up 31-7. So K-State wins tonight, but UNLV beat Kansas in the other game, which was interesting too. It wasn't on Kansas's campus. They played where they're renovating the stadium, so they played where the Sporting KC play. I think that's what they are, Sporting KC.
Yes, you're correct. Sporting KC, another ripoff.
It's a ripoff of Portugal.
Here. Yeah, Sporting. Hang it up.
Sporting FC
Lisbon.
is the Portuguese team. Sporting FC.
Yeah. Sporting Lisbon too. Or whatever they ripped it off.
But what's interesting about this game tonight, and we'll bring Steve Merrill in on this. So, Steve, Arizona, there's all this conference realignment all the time. It's hard to keep up. But so Arizona now in the Big 12, playing K-State tonight. So you would figure, wow, this is their debut in the Big 12. This is a non-conference game. It's very bizarre. It's a non-conference game. By chance, Kansas State and Arizona signed a deal like 5 years ago to play each other 2 years in a row. And it's that game is this game, Steve. It's a non-conference, like, you know what I mean? They weren't in a conference before. So the game was scheduled. They said, we're going to keep the game, but it's not a Big 12 game. So I think I just throw that. I tweeted it out earlier. It's a little quirk here, Steve. There's going to be a lot of people that look at like the standings and stuff tomorrow or down the road and be like, I could have sworn they lost. What the hell? Like, this is this does not count as a conference game, Steve. Pretty twisted.
Yeah, although more than half those people probably don't know Arizona's in the Big 12 yet, so it could go both ways. It's crazy, isn't it?
Said, Steve.
Well,
Yes.
and Gabe, and it's something to talk about for Saturday tomorrow. I mean, we got all these like November end of season rivalry games taking place earlier now. We've got Oregon State, Washington State.
Yeah, because of the new conference stuff.
Right.
They got to squeeze it in early now.
And, the whole rival dog angle doesn't work quite as well. One of the reasons that rival dog angle works in November is because a lot of times that ugly underdog isn't going bowling and they treat that as their bowl game. In week 3, that's not the case for any of these teams yet.
I've always been fascinated by it too, is homecoming, Steve.
Right.
It's like, it's the homecoming game. Like, homecoming should be like the last game all the time. Like, college basketball does it right. It's the last home game. You bring the parents out. We're going to give you your flowers. Thanks for your service and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but like in football, it's often like now. It's like the second or third week. But that's, you're distracted by partying. It's sort of like it goes both ways. I get it at the end, but it's also fun early in the season too. Like there's a lot of, imagine the excitement tonight, right now in Fort Collins. These kids at Colorado State getting blasted, lit up. Colorado's coming to town tomorrow. They're all fired up. The Civil War, the Apple Cup, some good games tomorrow, big rivalries.
Yeah, I was going to say this, though, Gabe, quickly. If I did the homecoming early, you'd want to pencil in a cream puff because your guys are going to be ripping it up.
Yes,
your parents are in town and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. You can't have like a team that's even has a chance against you. You put the worst team on the schedule for homecoming because you're spending time with family, and you're right. The parties are massive that week.
I'm just going to check randomly, punch this in. I want to see when Notre Dame's
most homecomings are like mid-October. Like William & Mary's is always like third week of October, so they always end up with a conference game, which gets a little tricky, Cam, because like you said, you always want a bottom feeder for homecoming. When I started in the 90s, guys, and I might have saw this from Mark Lawrence or somebody else like Phil Steele, who came in before me 29 seasons ago, which is hard to believe, but double-digit home underdogs on homecoming were Money in the Bank back in the mid-90s when I started. But it's kind of all worn off here. And another reason, too, is everything's televised now. Everything's a big game. You just don't get those situational spots like you did 2 decades ago.
Yeah, everybody's desensitized to everything. Let's just call it out for what it is. All right, so the Toronto Argonauts just kicked a field goal. They're up 12-3 with 4:36 left. BC's offense continues to sputter, and the calls for Vernon Adams are going to start to get louder. So, Steve, UNLV with the big win tonight is 9-point underdogs. I thought Kansas were overpriced last week at Illinois, and then I sort of thought it was a bad spot on a short week for them tonight after playing a physical Illinois team, laying as many points. I guess the market just hasn't caught up to UNLV yet, Steve. But speaking of the Big 12, UNLV 2-0 against the Big 12 this year. They beat the Houston Cougars, and now they just beat the Kansas Jayhawks. So, like I said, the market really hasn't caught up to this Rebel team yet.
Yeah, Gabe, I was going down that rabbit hole a half hour ago, and you were talking about UNLV. I was pulling up all this stuff. And first of all, Mike London was the head coach of that Howard team that pulled the biggest upset ever. He came to William & Mary a year or two later.
Nice.
He's the current William & Mary coach. And Cam Newton's brother came to William & Mary as well and was a star receiver here a few years back when they were his top 5 team in the country a couple years ago. And Cam Newton was at several home games here in Williamsburg. So that all comes full circle. Hey, speaking of rivalries, I got to get this in. I didn't know till this week. I went to the William & Mary Quarterback Club on Monday night. I always listen to the coach speak, and they have some players and whatnot. The Richmond Spiders are leaving for the Patriot League, guys. They're leaving the Colonial, the CAA football conference, which I had not heard. And that's impactful because it's the 3rd or 4th longest rivalry in all of college football. Over 100 years, William & Mary and Richmond play every season, the finale. And Coach London said this week, he goes, I do not want that game last anymore. I want a conference game to finish the season. So that goes back to what we're talking about tomorrow with Oregon, Oregon State, Colorado, Colorado State, Washington, Washington State, West Virginia, Pitt. It's even affecting a FCS school like William & Mary and Richmond in the near future.
A quick thing, too, about UNLV, guys. With the new Pac-12, like you have to wonder why we're not UNLV part of this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you have Allegiant Stadium, you have the city of Las Vegas, you have that market. It's like you don't have LA, but you can say, well, we got Vegas. But there had to be reasons, and there's always a reason for everything. And the problem is UNLV is a state-funded school, and so is Nevada. They both fall under the Nevada State Board of Education. And they insist that they remain in the same conference. So they gave basically the Pac-12 an ultimatum. UNLV and Nevada or neither. Except this is upsetting UNLV because UNLV knows they can get in, right? So the Board of Regents at UNLV are kind of – the problem is, and you know this, Steve, what are you going to do, bro? The state, like the board runs the school, bro. You know what I mean? Like the dean doesn't have the same powers like Duke or as a private school. Like it's a state university, point blank.
I was looking at it the other day.
I was reading the board of directors.
It's one of those Mountain West teams, right, Gabe? It's like Fresno and Boise and Colorado State and San Diego State.
Tell me UNLV's not more attractive than Fresno State is? Come on.
I know.
UNLV must hate Nevada right now. You're like, you loser, Wolf.
Oh, yeah, they're like, you son of a bitches because of you we're not getting into the Pac-12.
I'd be snapping, going, you guys got to be better. You're killing us.
Well, take Nevada.
People are mad about
Nevada's a good basketball program, good football program over the years.
I know. And I'm thinking, listen, if you took San Diego State and Colorado State, you can take Nevada. Don't be snobby about this.
You're
Just
right.
take Nevada. You know what I mean?
Good call, Gabe.
They're good in
Steve.
basketball.
They are good in basketball, but their football program has hit the skids, but they're good in basketball. Yes, I agree.
Plus, you get Las Vegas is huge for the basketball tournaments and everything. You would think it would be worth UNLV and taking Nevada with them. I mean, I think that's a good package deal right there for the Pac-12.
Exactly.
I didn't realize it would be
and another thing, Steve,
state rivalry too. Like it's like they hate each other in these schools.
You can expand again after. So whatever.
Yeah.
So you squeeze Nevada in here and whatever. You're at 8. You can go to 10 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
I like to go
You
old
might get to
school,
12.
though, Steve, and call it the Pac 8
get to
again.
12.
Let's call it the Pac 8 again. Yeah, that'll be your goal to get back to 12 again.
Yeah.
They're the
Dude,
only
now
conference
we're
that has
hearing
less than their number. I mean, the Big Ten's like, what, 20 or something? The Big 12's
Exactly.
like 24.
Big
Like,
Ten,
why are they
8, yeah.
change, you got to change this stuff. It's like your numbers are off, bro. Like,
Well, it'll just
you
be
can't call
college
it that
football
forever.
one day.
Just
There'll be
double the
no
number.
right, you're right.
The Big is 20, the Big
So right,
12 is
Dave.
24. You just double it.
Division 1, Division 2. Like, yeah, like it's just like what? Like it's just out of control.
The SEC and the Big Ten have all been merged without merging officially. Like they've sort of tried to block.
They're going to become their own
people
league,
out.
basically.
Yeah, I was saying that, Steve, too. Like, even like, you notice, like, with football, like Harbaugh just said, I know he's in the pros, but he said the NCAA has no authority. Nobody cares what they say.
Well, not with the NIL now. The NCAA is dead with the NIL stuff, and that's a whole nother discussion. But that's going to change the whole realm.
The NCAA is going after the Tennessee Volunteers for stuff, and the state attorney general of Tennessee basically said, you don't have the power to, like, mess with this school. It's a state school. You don't have the
They're always
authority
mad
to,
at
like, do
Tennessee.
this.
They came after their basketball program with Pearl too. They got an issue with Rocky Top.
You know they're crooked down there.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? Man, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. The Friday Night Free Show continues. I am Morency. Steve Merrill, Cam Stewart in the house. So, Steve, we're just talking about these rivalries and going back like forever, and these teams playing each other for forever. Alabama and Wisconsin have only played each other once before. Wow. Kind of crazy. You figure their paths would have crossed, right? They've literally only played each other once, and it was like, I think it was in 1918 or something stupid like that. You know what I mean? It was like 100 years ago. Like
1918.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you. Wow. But I like this. I find college, you know what I mean? I like seeing fresh matchups. So Yeah, so Alabama's never been to Madison, Wisconsin before. But this isn't the old school Barry Alvarez smash mouth team. I personally think Bama are going to roll them, but that game is at 12. College game day is at South Carolina, LSU. That's at 12 Eastern. LSU laying 6 points right now against the Gamecocks. An interesting game, and Steve, you do the videos of the top 25 stuff. This isn't a top 25 game because Florida State are underachieving. Touchdown Lions.
Yes.
Memphis getting 6.5, Steve, against Florida State. Is this the correct number in your opinion, or is this a preseason number that they haven't adjusted to? Because I don't see how you can lay 6.5 points against a good football team like Memphis.
So I run the 10,000 simulation for all the FBS games every week, and I have Florida State by 6.8. So it's almost exactly where my simulation came out. I think the real key here, Gabe, is the bye week, and we'll see. It's a game you're going to sit back and just keep an eye on Florida State, because if they lay an egg again here, how could you possibly catch that falling knife in the near future? But we'll see if the bye week resets them. I don't know. I mean, this is a team that was ranked 10th in the nation. They've lost outright as a double-digit favorite 2 times. By the way, I just pulled up the Alabama-Wisconsin thing because I didn't know that. They played in 1928, 15-0 win by Alabama.
Close. I was up by 10 years. I was up by 10.
Played in 2017, it's saying, or 2015 in Arlington, Texas. It says Arlington, Texas, and Badgers won 35-17, and maybe it was, yeah. So
really?
I guess they played twice.
That's not true. The Badgers never beat Alabama in 2017.
I'm like,
that's a
lie. Real quick. I'm getting mixed results
that
here.
never happened, Cam. Wisconsin never beat Alabama. That's a lie.
I'm fact-checking Gabriel Morency during the debate.
We have to investigate the
what are you, David Muir? This is biased, rigged. It's
You're right. It
biased.
says 1-0. The Alabama website says 1-0. So I think that is the correct answer.
So they lied.
No, the Alabama website is showing they beat Wisconsin 35-17 in 2015 on September 5th. So it was an early kickoff game in Arlington.
There you go.
Is what it's looking
these
like.
Gambling sites are often wrong about stuff. But so Alabama's website is saying 1-0. So Alabama's like, they're saying.
Yeah, well, they're showing the September 5th, 2015 game. They beat them 35-17, but they might have played. They did play in 1928, it looks like. I think the Alabama website just isn't going back that far, maybe, or the page I'm on. Anyway. To your point, though, when I saw that matchup this week, I was like, that looks like a tough scheduling spot for Alabama. It's an unusual road trip. You've got a new coaching staff, first road game after 2 straight home wins. You know, I turned that South Florida game on in the fourth quarter last week. I thought it was the replay of last year's game for a second. It was
I know.
14-13. I don't know. We'll see if it gets to 17.
Steve,
I make
Wisconsin,
it 13.5.
You've seen Wisconsin play this year. Both these Wisconsin have been underwhelming in both their games, Steve. Against
that offense is questionable. I mean, I don't see a situation in which if they cover, it doesn't stay under the 49. So I do think Wisconsin and the under are very correlated in that game tomorrow.
Well, I could almost see, though, Alabama winning like 31-7 or something. 38-10.
Correct. I'm just saying, I don't see Wisconsin winning a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
Wisconsin covers. It's going to have to be under 49. Yeah.
All right, we'll let Cam ask you about a game, but I'll just throw one out here right now. Indiana at UCLA. So the new Big Ten right now. Next week's the big week. You got USC at Michigan. That's sort of the showcase game, 3:30, CBS and stuff. But Indiana, this is a pretty good football team, Steve, with the coach, Ignati, coming over from James Madison. They're not like – they're unique, this team. In the modern era, guys, they're sort of a classic – everyone talks about like the powerhouse transfer portal stuff, but they're an example, guys, of – you know, a mid-tier football team that suddenly can get really good quickly in that all the transfers. They bring in Curtis Rourke. Signati brings a bunch of guys over from James Madison as well, Steve. It's a pretty good Indiana team, and people keep waiting for this UCLA team to implode. They survived at Hawaii. They won the football game, but even the Rose Bowl's not an easy place to play, but I think Indiana are just a much better team than they are. What's your take on this game?
Yeah, so I run that simulation, 10,000 games. I plug a lot of things in, including, current form and also expectations and whatnot. I've actually got UCLA by 6, which is one of the biggest disparities from the point spread all week. So I do think something you're talking about, Gabe, is kind of baked into that line already. We saw it open around 2.5, and now it's up to 3. There's even 3.5s out there. So, I mean, UCLA at 3.5 or more is starting to look like some line value for me.
It's a little excessive. You're right.
What they had a week ago before they played was pick 'em. So that's another thing. I think the lackluster showing is also inflated a bit.
Cam, you got a game?
Steve?
Well, we got about a minute and a half with Steve.
Yeah, I got a few, but I'm going to talk about this one. Boston College at Missouri, Steve. I remember this line opened. I think Missouri was 16 and a half. I see it down to 14 and a half. What do you think about this one? I know BC is getting a lot of respect, and if Missouri can get to 14 or under, what do you think about this one? Total 53.
Yeah, so I do a deep dive in the top 25 videos on Wager Talk TV every week, and there are only 2 top 25 games this week. Kansas State tonight was one of them, and the only other one tomorrow is that Boston College game. So I did some bonus games. I talked about that Alabama-Wisconsin because that's a team, if they, have a chance of making an upset win would be in. And also South Carolina-LSU. Both Wisconsin and South Carolina are in the 30s, so if either win, I think they'll be ranked. But this is the other top 25 game all week because Boston College is actually 24th. My simulation has Missouri by 19 and a half. So I think this line is a little bit short. And I also think Missouri has a substantial defensive edge as the number 6 ranked team in the country.
I'm never a fan of laying these big points, but I think Alabama rolls, and they're on the road, but Missouri's even at home. I think Boston College are good, but the Florida State stuff, as we saw with Georgia Tech, gets a little overvalued, right? Remember, Georgia Tech beats them, and then their numbers, they lose to Syracuse. So I think it's just going to be too much for them to keep up. This Missouri team's dangerous, Cam. They're as good as Ole Miss everyone always Ole Miss.
I agree with you, Gabe.
Missouri are kind of the same thing. The problem is Missouri, everyone overhypes these SEC teams right now. Wait till they start playing Georgia and they start playing each other in Texas and they all start going head to head. They haven't played each other yet. Thanks, Dave.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be successful, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play's there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? I mean, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. The show's flying by here tonight, 120-minute full court press. I will be back Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We'll be on live during the Chicago Bear, Houston Texan football game. And there's no turning back for me. I can tell you that I did submit the Houston Texans as my survivor pick of the week. Let's bring in Rob Vino right now and see what he thinks about that. Rob? I'm in the Circus Survivor. I only have one entry, so I kind of feel like, I'm up against it, playing against guys with 10 and stuff. But I spoke to a couple of people that I won't even name that told me they lost 4 or 5 entries with Cincinnati already. So I'm like, all right, well, there's 4 of your entries gone. There's 4 dimes. So I'm still alive with my 1 dime, right? So, you know what I mean? I got 1, I'm still alive. But what do you think about this, Rob? Like, you got to consider down the road with this stuff, too. You got to consider, like, the Circa makes you play the Thanksgiving Day game, the Black Friday games, as a separate Christmas Day is a separate week. So if you don't save those teams, you're screwed. So you got to save those teams, or at least a few of them. Otherwise, you box yourself in. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot to it besides just who's the best, who's the biggest favorite this week. Baltimore, to me, they're playing the Giants. They're playing the Commanders. Like, Baltimore have, like, a bunch of games down the road that I think they can win and will win. If you look at Houston's schedule, they're a first-place team, guys. They don't have a lot of easy games, actually. So I sort of think it's a good spot here. They survived last week, Rob. The Bears did, and I was on the Bears, but, you know, it was the stupidest cover in the history of football. Yeah. Caleb struggled. What do you think of my survivor pick with the Houston Texans over the Bears?
Yeah, and it's probably why I don't get involved in those, Gabe, because you have to look so far down the road like you do.
Your head starts to
just there laying it out. Right? Yeah, and how many easy games do I have on the schedule? How many hard games do I have on the schedule? Just at face value, I think Houston's a nice play even at the price. So never mind straight up in a survivor pick. Obviously, it's been bet heavily, 3.5 all the way to 6.5. But like you said, Chicago's win last week, statistically, it's phony, right? They did nothing offensively to win that game. Will Levis kind of helped gift wrap that game. And I look at this, Gabe. Caleb Williams' first road game in his career. It's a national spotlight game. But to me, the most important thing is it's against D'Amico Ryans, who's just a defensive guru. And you know, let's face it, he ran Lincoln Riley's playbook at Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley's playbook at USC. It's a simpleton playbook. There's nothing really difficult. Then you get to these NFL DCs and these defensive minds. And last week he looked a little lost. Probably look a little lost here again. And boy, Houston offensively loaded. Great game with Indy last week, to tell you the truth. Indy fought hard. Anthony Richardson missed a couple of passes, but I like your pick. Long story short.
Let's hope it catches. So listen, we're up against it. We got one of the mini segments here. I'll ask you. We got some late points here. At the half, the Toronto Argonauts scored again. So the CFL football game, the down left right now tonight. We're at the half right now. 19-10 for the Toronto Argonauts. 19-10 in-game total, up to 55.5 right now. You know, it's Jekyll and Hyde, Rob. You and I have been talking about this BC Lion offense all year. And Vernon Adams not to blame. He's been out. But Nate Rourke, since he's been back, we thought they were sort of back on track. Only 10 points tonight. I do expect this to open up, and you figure BC gets back in this. They're plus 200 guys on the money line right now, Cam. I already jumped on BC plus 160 when they were down 9-0, so I'm not going to do it again. But if, for people tuning in, they're only down 9. They're at home. They didn't play well in the first half, so plus 200 is a pretty good price. But what do you think about the total here, Rob, right now at 55.5? And did you bet the over the game, pregame, 52.5?
Well, first of all, I'm thankful to my lucky stars that we got 19-10 at half because I had over 24.5 at halftime and with about 2:40 left to go. I didn't think I was getting there. In fact, I'm getting ready to come on this show, and I'm mumbling a few expletives as I'm sitting up this So, you just brought me great news. Honestly, I didn't even know it was 19-10 because if I turned one of these monitors on.
The Argos scored with like 6 seconds left in the half.
Wonderful.
They did you a favor.
So real quick to your point about second half and perhaps the BC side, Toronto kind of let them off the hook with 4 field goals to start this game. You know, that could have been a lot worse for BC. So they're right in it. And the total's right in it. I would expect the second half to open up a little bit. Kelly looks fairly good. They do that stuff on the goal line, Gabe, but they just run into the middle and plow in and get half a yard and plow in and get half a yard.
I'm getting sick of it, actually. I'm getting sick of it where sometimes I get not getting your quarterback hurt, but sometimes you're just breaking the flow by bringing all these new guys in. Just keep on playing.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? I mean, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
To quote George Costanza, George is getting upset. I am Gabriel Morency. Yeah, George getting upset. You know what I mean? Like, really. These freaking overs, Rob. Last night, 59. Good on you getting that number earlier in the week. I had a 59. I even had to buy half a point to do it. So in the end, it was smart, but could not believe it. I jumped on an in-game over. I'm like, it's 28-28 with like 5 minutes left in the third. I said, it's going to be like 4. I said, minimum will be 35-35 in like 10 minutes. Nothing. How about that Bills game last night, too? Cam bets the under 30.5 in the first half. The Bills score right at the end. It gets to 31, and then no one ever scores again after. Just one more touchdown. And it stops.
Jesus. What the best is, too, Rob? We nail the Bills every which way, and we're games on props and whatever. Like
I'm a Bills fan. I was mad after the game, Rob. Like sad. I was like, the Bills won. I was like, he's like, you should be happy with your team. I was like, yeah, whatever.
You're almost wishing you're a kid again.
Man, I was like,
it's like, yay, my team won. And then you're looking at the team.
When Tua went down, Cam, they would have scored. They were about to score a touchdown, and Buffalo wouldn't have stopped. Buffalo just handed the ball off like 50 times in a row.
It was ridiculous.
Cam. You saw it. I wanted to kill myself watching that game last night. I brought it up, Rob. It was like watching an NBA game when you need the over and it's garbage time and they bring the bench in and they're just bricking it and your anger grows with every shot. Because they're scrubs, but you're thinking, you know what? You son of a bitch, you're making like $4 million a year to sit on the bench, bro. Can you at least can you make a layup? Are you that bad? I'll never forget. My buddy used to do the Vancouver Grizzly games. And he sat in the middle of the play-by-play guy and the color analyst, like he was one of the producers. But he sat courtside with him. And he told me once, he goes, I swear to God, I could beat the 13th to 15th man in the NBA in a game of horse. I said, and he didn't say one-on-one. He wasn't stupid, like, I can score 8 points in an NBA game. He said, I can shoot better than the 12 to 15 guy in the NBA. And I said, come on, bro. I said, dude, no, you can't. And he's a good shooter, this guy. I said, no, you can't. Yeah, he can. I believe him now. Like, when you see somebody stiffs in the NBA that just toss the bricks, you're like, you know what? I actually do kind of believe you. All right, Rob. So college football tomorrow. I'm a little shell-shocked for totals here right now, but what are you looking at? Total sides. What do you like tomorrow on the college gridiron?
Well, the first thing that stood out to me on Saturday was South Florida, Gabe. -11 against Southern Miss. The South Florida team under Alex Golish, last year, the first year, he brought that, Josh Heupel run a play every 19, 20 seconds offense with him. They really didn't have enough depth. But you could see him coming at the end of the year. You watched the Alabama game last week, and you can see the defense coming along. The 42-14 is misleading, obviously, in that game. And they get Southern Miss, which, that Tate Rodenbach, the kid who quarterbacked FSU after Travis got hurt, right? He winds up as the quarterback of Southern Miss. They've been a horror show offensively so far through 2 games. They did beat Southeast Louisiana, but the statistics weren't good. I think South Florida goes down there and puts the gas to the floor and just nails that team because they have the defense to be able to do it so far this season.
One total I'll ask you about that I do have on my list in my best bets here. Colorado State over. Colorado couldn't get it going last week against Nebraska, and Nebraska were just too physical for them. They hit the wall, but man, there were a lot of points left on the field in that game. In a very similar situation almost to the Bills, Rob and Cam, that Nebraska stopped trying to score.
You're right.
They literally took, it's almost like, the rule was thinking down the road. I don't want to run the score up. They might get me down the road, whatever. He just didn't do it. He could have, but I don't know. Nebraska sort of went into party mode too at the half. But we had a track meet last year with the Rams and the Buffs. What are you expecting tomorrow, Rob? See, it seems to me that that's the one that should both teams get into the 30s tomorrow.
Yeah, I played it. Last year it goes overtime, right? And it was a testy game. I mean, they knocked Travis Hunter out on a kind of a cheap shot in the sidelines in the beginning of the game, so you don't get him for the remainder. And Colorado's offense had been humming until he went out. So that kind of hurt them. And then you get the little altercation between Shedeur and Norvell after the game, right? Shedor's kind of mocking him, and the press conferences were a mess. So
don't forget, Norvell talked about Deion's mother and said Deion wasn't raised properly. So, there's some bad blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's not cool. You don't bring family in this.
He crossed the line.
You're the head coach. He crossed the line. No, dude, you imagine that mean you were coaching
Cam, you know what it was?
Our friends and
it was
family.
It seemed harmless, but it was about the sunglasses and hat.
Yeah.
And Norvell said, I don't know, my mom taught me to take off my sunglasses and look people in the eye like a man. And then Norvell said, I wasn't talking about you. It's like, yeah, you were, bro. You know what I mean? Remember Norvell? No.
I wasn't talking about you. What are you talking about?
It's like, yeah, of course you were. Yeah, you were. You know what I mean? Just own it, right? Own it. But remember, guys, Cam and Rob, Colorado talked a bunch of smack. We're going to murder you guys because of this. But then they didn't. But then I don't like the Colorado State kids this week. They're talking smack about how Colorado suck and they're going to beat them. And but that's what these rivalries are about, Cam. I love it. All these kids are running their mouths. But last thing, Shiloh Sanders, the other one on the DB one, there's a video of him when they flip the coin. He looks at the Nebraska players. He goes, we're going to roll your bitch asses today.
Not so much.
You lost by 38.
Dude, I love
Colorado
Nebraska.
just talk and talk and talk. It's like, you guys suck. Stop talking.
Exactly,
you won 4 games in 2 years, 5 games now. You're 5-9. Your record with Deion 5-9.
The program's actually going backwards. They were actually before, I think it's not going forwards. They used to at least they were competitive. They grinded.
Well, they were 1-10, 2-10. They've been a train wreck. They've been bad.
But before that, Gabe, they had remember that quarterback Montez. They had a couple of years where they were better than that. They had one horrible year. But what has Deion done? No, we're going to bring I'm going to say very underwhelming, and people want to kick their ass because they talk all day.
They shouldn't be 7-point favorites either, guys.
No, I took Colorado State. I got 7.5. Yeah,
you know what I mean, Rob? Yeah, they laying 7 with this team. That's ambitious.
You can say this, Gabe. Matt Rule definitely laid the blueprint for how to beat this team last year. Yeah. Game 2 of the season, if he had a better quarterback, they'd have won that game. He sacked Shedeur 7 times in that game, and Colorado could go nowhere until Nebraska got worn down because they kept turning it over when they would get it back. Then this year they came out and did the job. Colorado State, I just don't think has that type of pass rush personnel.
Exactly.
To do the same thing that Nebraska did.
They don't have the studs on the D line that these.
No, they don't.
Exactly. So they'll be able to move the ball on them. It'll be attractive.
And the other side's got players.
No, Colorado State. I know. You know what, too? I think people look at the Texas game, but they got punched in the mouth. Texas are really good. It is what it is. And they kind of tapped out and realized we're not, Colorado State tapped out at halftime in that game.
Yeah.
But, Rob, before we get you out of here, NFL football, the Eagles and the Falcons, we talked about the Sunday nighter. We got about a minute and a half, I think, here. What about the Eagles? I'm not a big favorite guy. I'm a big dog guy this week, guys. I like the Patriots plus the points. I like the Vikings plus the points. I like the Bucks plus the points. Bucks Lions in a track meet, Rob. I like that game to go over the number. What about the Eagles? If that game, if it catches your eye, but I kind of think the Eagles are going to roll the Dirty Bird on Monday night and cover the number. What do you like in the NFL, Rob? We got about a minute.
Yeah, I've kind of just set myself on autopilot, Gabe, and maybe it's too early to do so after just one game. But my feeling is that defense under Vic Fangio, we know his style. He wants to pressure, come after you. And we saw it in game one. They don't have the pass rush that they had 2 years ago. And when they don't get home, they get torched in that secondary. It's going to take them a little while. So I'm kind of on autopilot playing Eagles games over until they get to like 51.5, 52.5. Here we're sitting 47. They can score 100 ways to Sunday. But I just think Atlanta's going to get their fair share at points in the game against that defense, which just comes at you, and leaves holes in the secondary.
And here's an under for everybody. A shocker, Rob and Cam. I like an under. When the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the road, you bet the under. They're 52-20 to the under their last 72 road games. Insane.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? Man, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards.
All right, let's roll. We're rolling the Friday Night Freak Show. We got Tony. Speaking of freaks, Tony Finn puts the freak in the Freak Show, actually. But, Tony, you look like you're coming from the golf course right now. Were you playing over at the Wynn?
Slick.
You know what, Cam? You know how much it costs to play at the Wynn? It turns out it's even more than Pebble Beach now. The Wynn golf course, which I've always wanted to play. It's my one little bucket list where I just like to show up kind of hammered, walk in, and just and slap down the dime and go, give me the golf clubs. Like, you know what I mean? I just don't just walk in. What does it cost? To be like, whoa, you, sir? Walk in with a Metallica t-shirt or something, Cam?
I love that. Yeah.
Here's the, you know what it is, though? The current fee right now. $1,200? $850 for weekdays. $850. No, but get this. For the $850, you get a cart, a caddy, drinks. Everything's like you're in. Like, you
Sorry,
know what I mean?
I have one question.
Oh, and get this, Cam.
Or...
Borrowed Callaway clubs. They give you a set of Callaways to play with.
No,
you don't have to bring
they're not going to give you 1960 persimmons where the wood's like the size of a quarter. They're going to give you some real clubs.
For one of my bags there, I bought at Walmart for $2.99.
I got some
bucks. I got a golf set.
I got some. The Wilson Crow flights. I got a couple loser sets in my basement. I'm going to tell you this though: if it's unlimited drinks, that's a steal. Or is there a limit to your drinking?
No. That's you got to pay. That's where like you got to be a member, VIP, and all that.
Oh,
but anyway, we're going to speak to Brady Cannon. He's the golf kingpin of getting tee times and deals and stuff. There's no way in hell he'd let us do because he's like, I'm not going to put my name on Morency playing at the Win because they're going to be like, dude, you're the one that like let this bald guy play here. That like he tore our course up. He smoked weed all day on the golf course, and like he's not allowed back. Like
into the pond.
We've all been there, Cam. Where the marshal, like every golf course, you're like, oh damn, here comes the marshal and the golf cart at you. You're like, oh man. Imagine the Win. Like, I don't even know how many holes I'd get through before to be like, dude, we told you 4 times. You can't blaze on the golf course here.
I'm going to tell you, we went down a hill. My buddy was drunk driving the cart, hit a boulder drunk. We went in there, smashed the axle of the cart, literally went into a pond. The thing was absolutely destroyed. I go, we can't stick around. Like, we could go, like, dude, you're going to go to jail. Like, you're driving a golf cart and destroyed
some of these marshals, too. Anyone that plays golf, Tony, and Cam knows, he's been around golf course, but some of these marshals are like ex-cops or military guys.
Oh,
like,
I know.
They're mad. Like, I've been fearful. I'm like, man, we pissed this old dude off for real. Like, he's gonna kill us. Like,
don't mess with
the marshal comes over. What the F is wrong with you idiots? We're like,
that's exactly it.
We're like, I told them we can never come back here again, by the way.
Nope.
But anyways, all kidding aside, Tony Finn, what do you like better this week, Tony? College football or NFL football?
I like college football better than I like the NFL. Not that I don't like the NFL, but I have a couple early games tomorrow that I really like. I'm a
bring it on. What do you like?
I like Tulsa plus 18 against Okie State in Tulsa.
I like
early
that, Tony.
First game of the morning.
Wow,
yeah, very good.
The dumpster, Tony.
Really? You think they're going to handle a state rivalry game?
Wow. What's that?
Yeah, just for the record, Cam, I watched every snap of that game last week of Arkansas. Arkansas should have won the game. They let them off the hook. Nice comeback by the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So you think the Cowboys are just overpriced and shouldn't be this big of a favorite again? Like last week they laid 10, they barely won the game. Now they're laying 18.
Yeah, I think
Tulsa aren't as good as Arkansas.
No. And I'm not a big look ahead or sandwich game. None of that, none of those little fancy or cliches or fun things to talk about when you're selling plays or something. But Oklahoma State has a couple of big games in the horizon. They're going to play Utah. I think they get crushed by Utah personally. However, they just defensively, they're not very good. They showed that. Listen, I thought they should have lost. I didn't think they played very well at all in their wins. Tulane, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, so what's the other one? That's one of them. And for the record, guys, for the CFL game, Cam,
I saw your face.
They pulled Nate Rourke. They actually did it. They pulled Nate Rourke. Vernon Adams is in now.
Wow.
Yes, he is.
I don't like this either. They're messing with these guys too much, man. You don't pull him at the half because now he fumbled the first snap. It's like now you throw him in here at the half.
I'm with
you,
bro.
I haven't played in a month and a half. Now you want me to come in here. You wait till after the game, Cam. You just sort of tell Vernon like a goalie. You look, I've been there as a player on the bench where they come over, you're starting the next game. You know what I mean? It's like you tell Vernon, you sort of give him the wink. We're going to go to you next week. And you let it play out tonight, Cam. But now, like, this is a sign of desperation by Campbell. It's a sign of desperation by Campbell. Now, and you were surprised when I told you. They're ready to throw him under the bus. I can't believe they just did. Wow.
I can't believe it this early either. Like, wow.
It's going to confuse the team, though, Cam. Because you're like,
not good.
So you're telling me, we had Vernon, now you sign Rourke, but now you don't like
Rourke.
Vernon. What? And then they're going to think, you guys will screw me if you screw these star quarterbacks like this.
Correct. It's a bad
like it's not smart football stuff. Campbell's like hitting the panic button. Wow.
Sure
Rourke's on the sidelines now. All right. Sorry, Tony.
My other game, another early game, too.
Yep.
I like LSU -7 at South Carolina.
It's down to 6 now, too. 6.5.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're right. I saw a 5.5 2 earlier. That one's still there. But this is the college game day. Visits Columbia, for a feature matchup. Hey, listen, Brian Kelly.
It won't help him on the field.
No, it won't. It won't help him on the field.
Good for them, man. They'll get drunk in the morning and they'll see McAfee there and stuff.
This week. There's so many better games.
Well, like
You know
I
what I
said,
mean?
the best, you know what? It's Pacific Northwest bias, Cam. How the
Exactly. Hell, do you not
why
go to the
wouldn't
Apple
you
Cup?
say, well, you say, or even a Civil War with the Ducks. They're bigger even. You go, listen, man, the Ducks are playing. We'll go out to Corvallis. They don't want to go to Corvallis. Point blank.
I'm with you.
They don't want to go to
Coast bias,
Corvallis,
Dave.
and they don't want to go to
I'm
Seattle.
buying in
They should.
with you and Tony.
They're playing that.
Yes.
They're playing the Apple Cup at Lumen Field, where the Seahawks play. It's neutral field.
What a joke!
You're telling me you shouldn't set up in the parking lot at Lumen Field tomorrow? It would have been perfect for college game day, Tony.
Yeah.
I'm with you. You and I saw this LSU team.
Yes.
They're okay. USU is better. I get it. But South Carolina aren't very good. I know they beat Kentucky last week. I don't think they can keep up with LSU. I like your pick.
No, their offense isn't good enough, and it's not that LSU's defense is any good, but I think the Gamecocks offense ranks around 124, 125th, and the two NFL linemen for this LSU team, Will Campbell, Emory Jones Jr., are awful good at LSU by about 20.
Man, Argos
This
with
game,
the fourth sack of the night.
I'm with you, man.
Switching
they
the
ruined this
quarterbacks
game.
like this is like he
Oh,
screwed
the
it up.
total's in trouble. Oh no, this is bad coaching. You don't do this stuff.
Wasn't even that bad
Get a
tonight.
break.
I don't know why did you sign him if you don't like him. Like I don't know what the hell you're doing.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Eberflus coach of the year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
147 yards against the Jets and a touchdown? I mean, the numbers are incredible.
It's the Shanahan connection, and that's just what it feels like. And, Jordan Mason came into that game with a career 5.6 yards per carry. He's always been a very tough runner. He's always been good when called upon in small doses. You mentioned the yardage, which was impressive, but 28 carries. That's what I'm looking at.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. They're honoring the former BC Lion teams. There's my boy Louis Pasagula. There's Damon Allen.
too. Wow, yeah. Amazing.
Damon Allen, if people are watching this right now, it's on CBS Sports Network too. Looks like a lot like Marcus Allen, if you're wondering. Yeah, Tony, how do you know this? Marcus Allen, the great running back, has a brother, Damon Allen, who's thrown for more yards than anyone in football history. I think his record was broken by Cavillo, actually. But you add up like the leagues he's played in, him and Warren Moon, like this guy Damon Allen, serious legend, great athlete. And it's crazy because his brother's Marcus, so he sort of lives in his brother's shadow. But I was doing a talk show with him. Cam's met him, and I've hung with him a lot. Like I was on a TV show with him a lot. And
you did a great job.
So I say, so I got to know him and stuff. So I'm sitting there, and he just sort of casually drops. He's like, He goes, yeah, he goes, once I pitched a no-hitter in the College Baseball World Series. I'm like, what? So he just sort of casually dropped. Yeah, Cam. He goes, yeah, we won 2. Cal State, he was a Titan.
Yeah.
Right? Cal State, Fullerton.
So Cowboy, yeah.
And, so the guy's like starting quarterback, pitcher, pitching no-hitters, worlds, you know what I mean? Throwing for the most yards and stuff. And I finally got to know him enough, and I had a few drinks, and I said, man, is it true that Marcus slept with OJ's wife? He looks at me.
Yeah. What was the answer?
He goes, damn. He goes, damn, Gabe, come on, man. He started laughing.
Because he told me everything else.
I was like,
I gotta be honest with you, Morency. Your interviews with him, and I'll give you credit. Like, you should have won an award for those. Like, no, he never opened up to anybody, but when he came on our show, like, I got to meet him a couple times. You hung with him. He's a great guy, man, and he's like amazing. I love that.
He's got great stories. He's one of these dudes. You think Marcus
great
too.
Guy too. Great guy.
One of the best running backs too.
Yes.
I don't know why people don't talk about him. Actually,
exactly.
No one ever talks about him. Like you hear, Barry Sanders, they Walter Payton.
Have you not seen the Super Bowl versus the Redskins? It was a legendary performance. He won.
Like you said, the guy ran for like 250 yards in a Super Bowl. Like, what do you want from him?
And
you know what I mean? The guy was amazing.
Very good Washington D. Yes.
And another one of the tailback U, right? USC Trojans. Another one of those just great, Heisman Trophy, great running back. Remember him, Marcus Allen. Same with Walter Payton, but I remember, never forget, Marcus Allen used to go over the top. That was his thing at the goal line. He'd go over just go over the top of everyone.
And when he scored, act like you've been there before. No showboat. Marcus
You're
Allen.
right. He was cool as a cucumber. You're right, Tony.
Yep. Yeah.
Damon Allen, real stud. All right, here, let me rattle off my best bets. I think we got a board for this.
Yep.
All right, so this is college, although I can tell you guys right now quickly, this is what I like in the NFL. Tampa Bay Buccaneers +7, Green Bay Packers +3, Minnesota Vikings +6, New England Patriots +3.5, Houston Texans -6. Those are, in fact, are my contest picks. Bucks +7, Packers +3, Vikings +6, Patriots +3.5, Texans -6. But as far as college football is concerned, tomorrow, I like Alabama minus the points, guys. I think Bama's going to roll Wisconsin. I like Memphis plus the 6.5. I think if FSU win, it'll be close, but I'm not even sure they're going to win the game. I actually think
you
Memphis
get 7 now, Gabe. I think that line's 7 now. So you want to hold it.
Florida Gators plus the points. Texas A&M have lost 10 consecutive road games. They can't win on the road, this team. And now you're going into the swamp. I like this Lagway kid. They're going to play the freshman quarterback, and they're going to play Mertz. But if Florida doesn't win this game, then Napier might get fired like on Saturday night. So
you're right.
He's got to win this game. Oregon and Oregon State, over 49.5. Anytime I get a duck number at this price, I got to bet the over. I think the Apple Cup, the number's gone up, guys. It was 4, now it's 5.5. I hate the term sharp plays, but I think the number's going in the right direction. I think Washington are going to be too much, and Fish gets it done in his first big rivalry game. Colorado State +7, and Colorado State over 58.5. Those are my, what do you think of my plays, Tony? We got about 30 seconds here.
No, I couldn't argue with any of those plays. I was this way. I can't bet on Florida, and that's the way I looked in week 1, but then Texas A&M wasn't very good either. So.
Florida, Cam, you're on tomorrow, college football?
Yep. Thank you very much, Gabe. With me and the mayor of Miami, Joe Ranieri, from 12 to 3. We're going to break it down, hitting games live. Gabe, we hit Oklahoma State when they were down 1 million to Arkansas. Let's hope to do the same thing this week. Let's roll, buddy.
Well, let's hope the BC Lions can come back. But this game is like the game last night. It just hit a wall, and I want to throw my TV into a wall.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're on your own. Later.